All right. Hey, all. Thanks to everybody who's joining live, those who'll be listening in later. We're now in season 2 of this space, now live streaming with video. The block height is 739015. And this is the 23rd space in an ongoing series called Adopting Bitcoin, a conversation with Galoy. We hold discussions with thoughtful leaders about Bitcoin and Lightning adoption and about enabling communities and institutions to use Bitcoin as money, which is our mission at Galoy. We have a very special episode this week. We'll be hearing members of the delegation of French Bitcoiners that traveled to Central African Republic last week to learn about the Bitcoin adoption efforts in the country and to offer expertise, from individuals who've been building Bitcoin and Lightning projects around the world. We'll do some brief intros, provide a recap of how this all came about, and then we'll get into some of the learnings and takeaways from the trip. So without further ado, let's hop into some intros. Maybe I can kind of direct us around. So Jean-Christophe, love to hear a brief intro.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Jean-Christophe. I'm a product and project manager of Stackinsat, which is a French company, a DCA company based on Bitcoin. And we're also organizing Surfing Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin conf in France.
David.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm David Oren. I'm a co-founder of Solarly. Solarly, it's a company where we develop and install solar station in villages in rural areas in Central Africa. And yes, we have a great experience in the continent, so it's what.
Thank you. Nicolas.
Hey, Nicolas Burtey. I'm the founder and CEO of Galoy. So we developed a wallet with a strong focus on Lightning. And we also have a conference called Adopting Bitcoin and I guess a podcast where we are on right now.
All right, Sebastien.
Okay, my name is Sebastien. I am the founder of Big Block Green Services, and we install a Bitcoin mining farm everywhere in the world, but in the south part of the world more and more in Africa, essentially.
Thank you, Yamb. And you're on mute. Could you press the mute or unmute button, Yamb? Let me see if I can.
Maybe you can unmute for him.
Let me see. I cannot unmute for you, Yamb, so we cannot hear you. If you could press.
Oh,
there you go.
Is it good? Great. Thank you, Andrew. So good evening, everybody. And I'm Yamb Ntimba. I'm from Cameroon, and I'm talking to you right now from Douala. I am a financial consultant and a TV personality in Central Africa. And I've just founded Bitcoin Africa House to promote Bitcoin here and to make sure that what this currency is well known by the population and mainly by the authorities.
Thank you, Noor.
All right, Noor Bawab. I'm Director of Partnerships at Galoy and co-organizer with our friend Kamal and Nicolas here at Adopting Bitcoin.
Great, thanks everybody. We've got Kamal on the technical end, running the live stream. Shout out to Kamal. So we've got quite a few people here. I've got a couple, basic questions to kick us off, but I'm hoping this can be a bit of a open conversation. I've been in the States watching all of the pictures coming across Twitter, and it's been amazing to watch, and I'm excited to get the story from the people who were there on the ground. And so maybe for the watchers, if we could start from the basics, how did this trip come about, and maybe even talking just briefly about the law. So Sebastien, I don't know, maybe if you wanted to start, and then other people can chime in terms of how did this all get started, this trip. And you're on mute.
Sebastien, you're on mute.
Sorry. So the question was the beginning of the story?
Yes.
Okay. Just I saw the news, the Bitcoin legal tender in Central Africa. So I tried to find a way to contact the president or the government, and I asked to my friend Jean-Marie Cambacérès to contact someone he knows in the country, and he is friend with Alfred Poloko, the president of the Conseil économique et social in French. I don't know if there's a translation, but it's an important people, Alfred, in the country. So he sent us an invitation, and okay, I asked my friends to join me for a trip soon, and we chose the dates all together.
Great. And then, what were some of your goals, heading over there? Anybody can kind of take this. Nicolas, maybe you could start it off, and other people can talk about, when you were heading in, what are you thinking? What's on your mind when you're saying, I'm going to head there, and what you're going to do there?
It's really it's first great to travel to, I guess, every country that will adopt Bitcoin. It's a way to, maybe at the end, I will be visiting all the country on Earth, just, to one by one in the order of the adoption of Bitcoin. But yeah, I guess the main first question is, so when the law came about, there was two really drafts that we saw, and one was talking about like a law for adoption of crypto, and there was another law for adoption about Bitcoin. And so, it's different, right? Whether we want to have a law favoring crypto or a law really focused on Bitcoin. And there was also some story about, people associated with the project that are running some, I guess, Ponzi scheme in Cameroon, another country nearby. So we didn't really know if, it just, you can read something online, but you really have to go, I guess, on site to really have some idea what's happening. And so, yeah, this is our starting point, is like really try to understand where the government is at in terms of like, is it a crypto law, is it a Bitcoin law? And also try to get a sense about how is the usage about Bitcoin on the ground. So for me, that was the main two goal. Yeah, I guess maybe I let some other people, dive into this specific topic.
Now it's me on mute. Anybody else with experience in terms of how you got involved and what you were looking to get out of this trip?
Oh, why not? Maybe let me share how I got involved in this. I usually talk about CFA francs on TV and even in books I wrote, and many people in Africa, authorities, civil society leaders, students, researchers, some of them just contact me when there is an opportunity to talk about monetary issues in Africa, mostly in Central and West Africa. And it is, I think, because once they issued this law, the next day I was commenting it on TV, and we tried to explain it to people, and to tell them how Bitcoin can be a good opportunity, a tool for development of of Central African Republic. Because what I'm mostly concerned about is about how public policies can be changed when a country decide to use Bitcoin. And this was seriously what got Mr. Poloko to invite me officially. And he used their diplomatic network to reach me and just sent me an invitation. And I went there with all these previous videos, TV intervention where I was explaining the law and what I was trying to explain to everybody that this law was not infringing laws of the community. We have a Central African states community. It was not breaking the law, and it's something that a sovereign state is using to develop its country and try to be more competitive in the economic, all economic concerns that are raised by the World Bank, the IMF, the European Central Bank. And maybe some people were really they were surprised to know that such a country so very far from Europe is directly linked to the European Central Bank. So that's how I got involved in this conference and in this trip to Central African Republic.
Thank you for that. David, did you want to add something there?
Yes, yes, I'm working on the solar and in the electricity sector, energy sector in rural areas, and we see that there is a gap between what happened in the city and what happened in the villages. And one of the aspects very important also in this trip, is to avoid that some people are going to be forgotten in the monetary revolution, what happened in Central Africa, and it's to put in front that we have also to put in place some tools adapted to villages to avoid the monetary gap, as we see in the electricity gap between villages and city. Sorry. So yes, it's one also of the big picture that we have to take in account in this trip.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
And yeah, when I saw this law, so two things surprised me. So Nicolas told it. The first thing, it wasn't just only focused on Bitcoin and crypto. So that was the first thing that surprised me. And the second thing that was if people do not accept Bitcoin, they can go to jail. So it could be a surprise if you know how Bitcoin works, especially in this country where only few people, 10 or 15 people only have access to internet. So yeah, it was a challenge to go there and to understand a bit more about this law, this country, and what the government wants.
Awesome, thank you guys. And Noor, I want to kind of pass it to you. I want to hear a little bit about like as the events and the meetings are being planned. I mean, I think there was like 3 or 4 days maybe that you all were meeting with different people. Can you give a little overview of maybe the different groups or settings? I saw a picture in front of an auditorium full of people. I think I saw a picture with the president, or I saw you posing with a group of women like using Lightning wallets and posting Lightning addresses or invoices into Twitter. So we'd love to hear about like the different parts of this trip.
Yeah, sure. So I arrived a day early before the guys came to the ground, and I just went on a little tour, I guess, just to see what the country looks like in real life. Because starting the next day when everybody arrived, that's when all the locomotion started. Essentially, right on the first day, there was a change in schedule, and they've decided to get us to meet with the president on the first day of the boys' arrival. And that was very a very interesting moment and a very, I would say, humbling moment, because you are going there to explore, to understand better, and on the very first day, the welcoming is by the president himself. It was quite a good meeting, I would say, because he was very welcoming, very open. The message that he gave us at the time was, you guys are welcome here and you guys are expected here, and you have free range to do whatever you think is right. So we based the rest of the trip on that basis, essentially, and a lot of what we did following that came from that green light, essentially, from the president, that you guys go ahead and do whatever you think is right, and let us know what we need to do after, right? Like you have blank slate to tell us what we need to do after. So that was on day one. On day two, we hosted a workshop. Essentially, Nicolas and Sebastien did a presentation about what Bitcoin is, what it represents. We took a bunch of questions. The main audience were merchants and business owners of the country. So there was about 30 or 40 people approximately there. That was a picture with the women that we took at the end of the workshop, and I call it the workshop because by the end of the presentation, we got them all to download the Lightning wallet, got them loaded with about $10 worth of Bitcoin, of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and it was really fun because right after they downloaded the wallet, you can see little clusters of people just sending sats back and forth to each other, just testing it out and learning as they go. And there was quite a bit of excitement after, and that's where the picture happened. And on the last day, I think that was the most important, not the most important, but one of the most significant days, I would say, is a presentation that was hosted by the director of the Conseil Économique et Social, who extended the invitation to us. The event was called Debate Around Cryptocurrencies, about cryptocurrencies. The whole presentation was made mainly by Nicolas and Sebastien and Yamb as well. And it was addressing ministers, members of high society, business owners, etc., that were there literally to learn more about Bitcoin and understand what it represents to their country, and address any fear, questions, doubts that they had to us and to the ministers as well. There was quite a few questions after it, and there was quite a few also interesting people in the crowd. One of them being a representative from the IMF, and we went for lunch after, and he was part of the lunch, and Sebastien was sitting right next to him, and he didn't realize that was a member of the IMF, so that was quite funny. Got him to download a Lightning wallet as well. I think they did the transaction. I'm not sure if the internet worked in their advantage at the time, but that was basically the summary of the trip, right? So that's what we did while we were there.
That's awesome. It's and the fact that this event or this trip came 1 week after we had bankers and financial authority members from 44 countries visiting El Zonte. For anybody who didn't see the Galoy, we published a blog post with the pictures from Jorge and Chimbera and Bitcoin, Mike Peterson and Bitcoin Beach. Like, there's a look that you get when you see a Lightning transaction hit like that, and like that look was there in those pictures, and you can see it on the face in this trip. And so, I mean, it's so cool to. There's all of these articles around like what's going on there, but then you see like real human beings using a better money and realizing the potential of like Bitcoin for financial inclusion, and like it was really inspiring to see a lot of that. So thanks for the overview. Maybe what we can do is like I kind of thinking about like this trip is going to learn and listen and hear like what people are thinking, what challenges or what plans are in place, and then also to share or educate. And so, I'd love to hear from, maybe whoever wants to open up, what were some of the things that you learned about either like, challenges or plans that you could share that might be interesting for people, kind of peeking in from the outside in terms of where they are or where they want to go or why they're taking these leaps.
I think Yamb might be good to answer this question.
Yeah, Yamb, let me know what are they thinking? What did you learn from this trip, or what things are people trying to grapple with and solve? What problems are people trying to solve right now?
What we should know is that Central African Republic is one of the poorest countries in the world, as according to the World Bank. They are, I think, the last or the one before the last. So they now have a president who is a professor. He was the former chancellor of the University of Bangui, and who is a professor of quantics mathematics and cryptography. So he's a good expert in everything that is about blockchain and cryptocurrency. So this man come to power in last year, 20. It was not the first time he was in power, but let's say during the electoral campaign in last December, he made a promise telling his people that he will find and invest $42 billion during this current administration. $42 billion, it's quite, even in the US or in China, it's a big amount of money, very big amount of money. So he was looking for a way to gather this $42 billion. But what most people don't know outside of Central and West Africa is that you have 15 countries that don't have a currency in Africa. And most of the people outside of Africa don't know that. You have in West Africa, 8 countries. You have in Central Africa, 1 country. And you have in the Indian Ocean, 1 other country. That made 15. And all these countries used a kind of treasury bond from France that is called, if we just talk about Central African Republic, it's CFA francs. But this is not a currency because it is not even managed, it is not even issued by a central bank. It is used by the General Directorate of Treasury in France. So one of the things, one of the mechanisms around this CFA francs is that when these countries, the revenue of their exportations, they have to keep 50% in the treasury of France, and they have taxes, they have fees, and this can go up to 85% of all their export revenues from their exportations. You cannot develop a country with this. You cannot even have the capacity to invest in your country. And this man,
yes. If you don't mind, I have a question on this. So what you said, France is keeping 50% of the. Well, how does it work exactly? I love to, if you don't mind, dive into this because I think this is extremely interesting to understand.
This is what happened in the history. In 1945, on December 25, France was coming out of the Second World War. But France was the colonial master of a certain number of African countries. And de Gaulle, Pleven, and another minister decided to found a currency specific and limited to only these African colonial territories. And they did this. Why did they do this? They did it because they wanted to protect these colonies so that no other country in the world could come and directly trade with them, because they won't have a currency, and then they will have to, if you want to trade with them, you have to talk with France, and France will buy for you, and France can buy for them. And that's what have been reissued, just refreshed in the 1960s, when all of these countries supposedly became independent. And in 1960s, before 1960s, everything was done by France because it was the colonial master. From 1960, 100% of the revenues exportations of the country were kept by the Treasury of France. It's what they call the colonial agreements. There was special agreements that were signed in those days, and it is only in the 90s, the end of the 90s, that people discovered them. And in 1973, 1973 is very important a year. You remember that it was the first year of the oil crisis, when the nations of Middle East decided unilaterally to raise the prices of oil. And then they decided that there could be this kind of updating, because a lot of countries in Africa were started to sell oil, like Gabon, like Congo, and they had a lot of money. And then they negotiated with France, and the new agreements were signed where France was allowed to keep. When I say allowed, it's just a joke. Where France told them that it would keep 65%. And in 2010, then there were the last agreements, and France told them it would keep 50%. But the problem is these last agreements were to be renewed in 2015, and some countries like Cameroon have not yet signed this agreement, again, this new agreement, and there are some more which are clearly saying that they won't sign them because they cannot understand why. So there are agreements that traced from colonial era to the contemporary era today. So President Touadéra then was asking himself, what should I do if I want to invest in my country? And he was about to start, he's about to start the exploitation of their oil, because there is a lot of oil and gas in Central African Republic. And that's why they are in war since so many years, mostly since 2013, they are in war. So if he starts exporting oil and gas, it will mean that he will give more money to France and not to Central African Republic, because he will just have access to at most 35% of the revenues of the exportation of oil and gas. That's why he was looking for an alternative, something that will help him, will make him be sure that the total revenues of the exportations will be under his own control, so that he can be sure that he will invest the $42 billion. That's why he may have told people to buy his oil and gas with dollars, with yuans, with rubles, but he decided that it would be done by a currency that is under nobody's control, that is not something that a state can decide to stop, use, keep, something like that. And that's why, as an expert of cryptography and quantics mathematics, he decided to choose Bitcoin. And this Bitcoin is, we have people, and Nicolas, Sebastien, Noor, David, and John Christophe, they have seen that when we explain to people that this will help their country have a greater capacity of investment, people was very happy. And it is something, an innovation, because we will have not only a Bitcoin that is a human being, but we can have now a state that can become a Bitcoiner, because it will sell and request that all the exportations be paid in Bitcoins. And this state can also give Bitcoin to the population through public orders, public tenders, and through salaries. So this is what's happening in Central African Republic. Once they start exporting oil and gas. Believe me, these guys will earn something, let's say put it in dollars, they will have at least something like $30 to $50 billion every year. And that's why this is something, it is very, very important to know that for them, it's a question of life or death. They need to keep their money and to be sure that it will never again be kept by another country.
Yeah, wow, thank you. That reminds me, and I had to pull it up, of a quote from Alex Gladstein, and because with El Salvador adoption, there was a lot of concern and things, and Alex said, bad news would have been the China coin, bad news would have been a ban on Bitcoin, bad news would have been a CBDC that's going to track all your stuff. Like, adopting freedom money as your legal tender is not bad news. It's not bad for anybody. And like, this has spoken to me because, like you said, you're bringing in, as I mentioned before, better money and money that people can control themselves. Over time, we know that there's a long road, and there's there's challenges to overcome. But thank you for that. That was a really interesting overview. Any thoughts or additions to what Yamb was saying?
I have another question to Yamb. Essentially, you mentioned at the beginning that you made some comments about the law and kind of broke it down to the people in Cameroon and in Central Africa in general. What was your main message around this law, and what was the feedback that you received from the people that listened to you or that watch you? What was the feedback on the ground?
So a lot of people, the first question people were asking was about are there any community, because you have a community of Central African states. So people were asking, did the new law broke the agreement of these states? And did the new law broke the agreement with France? But you have at least two main principles that the law are conveying, but that didn't broke any of these agreements. You have the unicity. Is there any point if the agreement between the states of the Central African Community, or there is any point in the agreement with France where it is said that CFA franc is the unique currency of the community? None such a point. So the law didn't break this agreement from that perspective. The other perspective was the exclusivity. Is there any point in these agreements between the community of Central African state and the agreement with France? Is there any point stating that the CFA franc is the exclusive currency? There is none. And more, since I came back, I'm trying to revise, to make a review of this law and the agreements with France, the agreement between the state of the Central African Community. And one of the things I discovered that as really a strong point, a very important point, is that when you see the missions of the central, what they call Central Bank of the Bank of Central African States, as you see, is not even a central bank. It's not called a central bank. It is called the Bank of Central African States. When you see their missions, and what you discover is that they are talking mostly about fiduciary money, fiat money. They are talking about fiat currencies. So when you talk about fiat, the law in Central African Republic is talking about something completely different. So they are not talking about fiat. And if all your mentions are about fiat, then the Central African Republic is really out of any attempt or possibility of breaking any agreement. And this is one of the demonstration that people took time to really think about what they are doing, and they are just avoiding problems with their neighboring countries and with France, because it will be something that they don't have time nor resources to put in.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. Just in this country, it is this money. In El Salvador, it's dollar. Sorry, the camera. In other countries, it will be other currencies. We don't care. This mission exists, this delegation, in view to add Bitcoin to the current currency. And in this case, it's franc CFA, but it's not really our motivation. I understand why you explain why Bitcoin in this country, and maybe why the President Touadéra chose this way. But from my side, just a Bitcoiner, I don't want to make politics. I just want to help people to have possibility to use Bitcoin easily and quickly now, because they have this chance, and it's an emergency to help the country to develop a real money, because we saw it in the shops. My friends saw the fact the people in the shops have not enough change, so they have to write something on a paper to I don't know the name in English, but with this paper you can come back in the shop and buy something again. So it's a new money. It's crazy. So the lightning wallet, it's an emergency now. So I think it was our first mission, and we were in the hurry because there is only one Bitcoin, and as Nicolas said during the conference, there is Bitcoin, and then there are shitcoins. So we wanted to explain that the important thing was Bitcoin, and to be focused on this problematic. It's a big challenge to adopt Bitcoin for a full country. It's a crazy bet. So we have to help just for people. So I understand it's very important because it's the franc CFA, and maybe it's not the right one money for the country. But really, it's not my goal.
Please, can I say just one word? That's very interesting, Sebastien, and I clearly understand what are the goal, what is the goal of everybody, of everyone in the delegation, because you are a specialist and you are an industrial. You like what you do, and and we all know that you can be useful to this country, and you want to help them, and they are really happy and willing that you help them. What the issue or the goal of what I was planning is to say, you want to help them. Maybe it can be good to know why they are doing what they do. If you understand from where they go to where they are going and why they are doing what they are doing, then your help will be significant, and you will know it's not about business or science, but there is also a moral part of what you are doing. Because these people, and you have seen how poor the country is. Bangui is a town that has only 9 kilometers of diameter, 9 kilometers. But what they need just to tar all the roads, it's 100 million euros, just 100. But these people cannot even afford 100 million euros. Meanwhile, they have a lot of money that is outside, and they cannot just get access to it. My role in this during this trip was just to make a link between Bitcoin and public policies, and this was aimed just to make sure that the engineers, the scientists, may understand clearly what they are doing from a political and economic perspective, and where they are going from the economic and political perspective, and why they decided to do this like that. And believe me, you may say today that, oh, I won't go there anymore. People will just come and beg you, because we know that you can be helpful. And this is sometimes how in the South, some countries can be said to be poor, can be said to be unable to conceive their own way of development, their own way of life. And we are living in something that we are now living something great. And what the difference between the way Salvador is using dollar and the way Central African Republic use CFA francs is this. Salvador knows that dollar is the money of the USA. It is not their own. It's the currency of the USA. It's not their currency. But CFA francs, Central African Republic is binded in agreement with Central African states to make one and be managed by the Bank of Central African States, and with an agreement with France. Salvador is not in the same situation. And we will help these people really start developing their countries by the time we really bring everyone what he can bring, and but knowing exactly why they are doing what they are doing. And you know that they were very grateful for all you people who came to explain to them what is Bitcoin, because in that CIMAC auditorium, there were members of parliament, there were members of the Social and Economic Council, there were members of government, and there were businessmen, there were students, there were teachers and researchers from the University of Bangui, and there were a lot of people, members of the diplomatic corps. So it was something very great. And let me tell you once more, thank you for what you have said and how much you trained all us.
David, I see a hand. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I would like to add something. It's what we see globally in the world for the moment. We see a division in the economy. We see in one part an inflationist economy system with a central currency where some supranational or national authority can manage it without the agreement from population. We see it in Europe, but we see it in everywhere in the world. And this currency, this national currency, inflationist currency, push people to consume more and more, because tomorrow my euro, my piece of €1 is going to have less value than today, and so it pushed people to consume. What we see with the Bitcoin, we see something new. We see an economy where we have a decentralized currency where nobody can add a Bitcoin. There is 21 million, more or less 21 million Bitcoin at finally in the circulation.
It's so, not more or less, right? It's not more, it's less maybe. But...
Yes. it's 20 million 99. It's just less than 20 million. Sorry, yes, it's
minus a couple boating accidents.
And what we see, it's like we can have a new type of economy based on the currency, a deflationist currency, where we can. Here in Occident, we see the Bitcoin like an investment thing. In the major part of the world, it's a possibility for people to have like a bank account. A lot of people are not bankerized. I don't know the name in English, sorry. But it's a possibility for them to to have access to financial services, to have access to a financial inclusive services, and the possibility for them to save money. It's new for them, and I think it's a real division between old economy based on inflationist currency and a new economy based in deflationist currency and decentralized. So it's totally new, and it's why some supranational authority don't really like, because I think that they don't really manage the inflation. They don't know what happened with this inflation, and so they are scared about what happened, I think.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, you imagine what it can bring to people that, to your point, unbanked or aren't banked, probably being the word, is, the ability to transact digitally, the ability to, once you can transact digitally, transact with anybody in the world. You can provide lessons to somebody across the world and earn satoshis, and the ability to have access to an asset for people in the world that have zero access to assets.
And like Nicolas said, Bitcoin is the best currency for people, government, economical actors. It's I can give the place to Nicolas to explain it, but it's the best currency. That's it. I don't know if Nicolas want to add something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can shield lightning. So I guess one part of this trip in Central African Republic is to, so like I said, maybe was to understand the law. Is it a crypto or a Bitcoin law? But also see, is there already a place where we can use Bitcoin and Lightning? When you make some parallel with El Salvador, so when El Salvador the law came active, there was Bitcoin Beach, which I think was very helpful for, if we think about government bodies, like they could easily make the trip, like a half an hour drive or so, and then see how this is working, right? Like there was already commerce that maybe at the time, I don't know, 20 or so that were accepting Bitcoin and Lightning. And so it was probably a very good education center for those government bodies, say, hey, this is how this works. And I don't know, maybe naively I was thinking that going there, we could pay in Bitcoin in some places. But I mean, I don't know if anyone else have some experience or they see something else, but I've not seen any Bitcoin sign when we arrive, and the hotel we stayed at didn't accept Bitcoin, and the place we're being into, like, they did not accept Bitcoin. And so one of the difference is that, yeah, in the country there is no center that you can just practice your Bitcoin, ask questions about Bitcoin, or just do some Lightning transaction and see how, yeah, this is working. And so it's a very different starting point, which make it probably more complex to go with, because you will have to rely on what you read online, and maybe with people that are coming to see, right? So this is why we went there. But I think it's harder when you have nothing to really look at in your country where there's already a successful implementation, even if it's at a very small scale. And so the challenge that I think the government have been pitched about cryptos that are like better than Bitcoin, because it's faster, because it's a lot more robust and everything. But so one of the key aspects of this delegation is to make people experience Lightning, because I mean, of course, they need a good store value, like the CFA is probably not good store value. I mean, it's a derivative of euro, but with like a lot of covenant, right? A lot of string attached. So euro is a better currency than the CFA. And of course, Bitcoin is this much better store of value. Like I think we won't. No one on this call will dispute that. But one of the benefits is also like with Lightning, with this layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. Now we can use Bitcoin not only as a store of value, but we can use a medium of exchange. And this is, if you want to think about property of money, it's really a combination of store value, medium of exchange, and eventually unit of account. I think a key exercise was to have all this commerce come, the second day and also the Thursday, and having them download Lightning Wallet and make them execute transaction. And then they can realize, oh, yeah, it just works, like it's easy. And maybe the frame of reference they will have in Central African Republic, it's like, oh, it's similar to mobile money, right? I can just push money from one phone to the next. And it's a helpful starting point. But then I guess we start to lose their mind because say, but it's better than mobile money, because like in mobile money, you if you have money on Orange, you cannot push money to Telecel or NTM or like the other network. It's like a very closed loop, and it just works in your country. It doesn't work with if you want to receive money from Europe, like it's not compatible. And so then you have this better system that is just compatible with any other. Like you have Lightning Wallet, it's compatible with any other Lightning Wallet. It's something that you would not get with mobile money. So I guess we start also building up from their frame of reference, which is probably mobile money in Central African Republic, and explain how this payment system is just like better in many ways. Noor, you had a question.
Yeah, the other thing as well that we noticed that was different from El Salvador is that when in El Salvador, every single person you ask, they have an opinion about Bitcoin, whether positive or negative, but they have formed an opinion, and they formed it quite quickly after the law. There was the protest, etc. Whereas in Central Africa, I think most people still are in the dark. They basically, again, it's second poorest country in the world. Most people don't necessarily have a lot of time to listen to any new development and to the news or anything like that. So they're busy with day-to-day needs, right? But the main advantage that they have, unlike El Salvador, which is mainly cash, almost exclusively cash, over there they already have mobile money, which as Nicolas said, is actually not easy to use at all. Right, it is a closed loop, and you can only use Orange Money with Orange Money and Telcel with Telcel. And sending money, it just requires you to remember all these super weird codes that when we asked our taxi driver to show us how to send money, he had a book and he was turning the pages to like, this is how you send, this is how you receive, and this is how you do this and that. And then sadly, with this specific person, we couldn't necessarily help him download a Lightning wallet because he didn't have a smartphone. But with most other people, because they're used to sending money over the phone, when they use a Lightning wallet, the light bulb is immediate. It doesn't take a lot of time. They understand, okay, this is actually better than the mobile money, and it helps actually take it one step further because now there is no boundary to who I can send to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the mobile money will be a good way to get the adoption pretty fast in Central Africa, and especially in all Africa, because not like in in France or in Europe, where we don't use that much, we don't pay that much for fun, but they do it every day, and it's such a shitty way. Mobile money it's useful for them, but it's pretty bad. So when they will use Lightning, I'm pretty sure they will be so surprised and they will adopt it. Really, the adoption will be very fast.
There is one drawback though, is that I think 300,000 people have internet access in Central African Republic, so it's 6% with data. There is 2 or 2.5 million, so maybe 50% of the population that have a phone, but it's not a smartphone. It's the Nokia 3310 like that we used to have like, I don't know, 15 years ago, where you don't have a data service, you just have a phone service. this is what they use a lot, like many to do mobile money. And so there is also the infrastructure. Maybe we can talk about it real quick. Is the infrastructure for internet is really barely the minimum. Like there is only 3G connectivity for your phone. There is no 4G antenna, and it's not only you only have 3G, but like the connectivity of the country as a whole is, I think, from what, if I remember correctly, from the regulator that we met, it says that there is a 3 gig internet for the country, like 3 gig per second, which is extremely low. So the data per even person who have internet is very low. I remember I sent a link with a Google Doc to one of the person we met during the trip, and he responded to me that, hey, we don't really use Google Doc here, like, because we don't have the bandwidth to be able to, I guess, to have the live updates, right? Like we need to use Word because like this we can work offline or not being connected. And this is really also the challenge, is the state of the internet in the country is like, if you have 6% of the population today with internet, it means that, okay, this is your the population that you can address with the current Lightning wallet, right? And I know it's either we need to expand internet dramatically and make it more affordable so that like people can have a smartphone and use Lightning wallet, or somehow, which I think would be very hard, and I would not necessarily advise for it, but use not internet, but use the like what Orange Money is doing, use a phone, I guess, service to be able to send command and to pay with Lightning. The challenge with this is like Lightning, there is the transaction there's a lot more metadata that need to be managed. Like typically, what is the current price of Bitcoin to dollar? Like you need to know that if you do Lightning transaction. When you just push money with mobile money, you don't need, like, you just say, okay, I push 100 CFA to this phone number and that's it. And you don't need a lot more context. You need this context for making Lightning transaction. And so I think it's one of the main limitations to get broad adoption quickly. That said, the regulator told us that they will be connected to fiber in June, like, so maybe in the next 30 days, which maybe will be a game changer and will like accelerate internet adoption. But it's one of the main questions I have on my end.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that in terms of plan or rollout. They came out with the plan Sengo, I think, during the week. You were there, which had like multiple elements to it. Are there discussions and plans about like how adopting Bitcoin attracts investment, or building the grid, or building internet infrastructure? Are these discussions that are being had, or things that you maybe advised them on, or is it maybe early for those specific discussions? It's more about really just early adoption at this point. Okay.
Sebastien, do you want to take it, or?
Why not? Is there a specific question?
I guess.
Yeah, so we have limited infrastructure, power, electricity, as well as internet, and I'm wondering what the discussions are, or maybe if there's plans towards how adopting Bitcoin could help, actually improve or increase or drive, infrastructure growth over the coming years.
Yes, it's always the same solution. We can help to find a return on investment on the dams, not dams, but on the hydropower plants. It's expensive to build an hydropower plant, but it's more expensive to build a mining farm. So the global invest with the hydropower plant is not very bigger, but only the farm. So we can imagine to create the dam and the farm and to have enough electricity to give maybe 60% of this electricity to the people during maybe I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, and to reduce the mining after the demand comes. Because if we create now 100 megawatt, you can be sure that the population will not consume all in 1 year. It's very long to develop the network and to sell electricity, the idea of electricity to the people. You have to imagine that many people in this country is not only in Central Africa, but it's the same in Congo. Very few people have electricity at home, so it's not very simple for them to say, okay, I signed something to have a contract to buy electricity every month. It's expensive. It's not always very easy. You have to explain the interest of electricity, because sometimes they have a small solar plant and it's enough for all the community. So but one thing is sure, they have the possibility to create the hydropower plants for 50 years, and it's not done. So if ever we can do it with mining, it's an opportunity. We have to try to do it, but the key is always the money. We have to find investors in view to pay the hydropower plant and the farm, and it's a challenge when the country is not enough safe for investors. So all the situation, it's a big challenge, but some solutions exist. Our business, our mission is to show some ways that exist, but that's all. It's not easy. It's not easy. The good money, the solid money, is not the solution. My record, it's not the solution for all issues.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's many parts to the many parts to the sort of to the future, or to the solution, toward not only the money. Yeah.
Can I say something? Okay, I take the floor, please. So the infrastructures, the infrastructure in the infrastructures in Central African Republic are really there are only few infrastructures, and when some exist, they are in very, very bad condition. But what I know from the discussions I had with the member of governments, the president of the Social and Economic Council, and some members of the parliament, is that they have an opportunity for mining business, because there is a dam that is at the end. It is really almost completed at something like 100 kilometers from Bangui, and this dam is built by Democratic Republic of Congo, and they have a deal to supply Central African Republic. So if there is a mining project right now to start, that it would be at that place, that around the dam, where it can be a good site for the mining project. But we need to talk with them. The mining business promoter need to talk with them and try to convince them to use part of this power that should be supplied to Central African Republic, because they need to build they need to transfer this this power from the dam to Bangui, and I think to Damara, where they will build the Bangui 2. It's the next capital. So, but considering this, what I think is by the time they will have more money to invest under their control for public investment, then all these infrastructural issues will be addressed one by one. And I think when you see the program of President Touadéra, he have promised that one of the first infrastructures he wants to build is everything that is around power. It's around electricity, because they will use their gas. They can have hydroelectric potential is around 700 megawatts. It's not too much, but with gas, they will natural gas. They will build. They have in project. I have between 2 and 3 and 5 gas power plants, and their goals, their targets are something like 5 to 10 gigawatts. So it will mega factories to do this, but they will start with something that will be at 200, 300 megawatts. By the time a mining company can submit a project to them, I think something can be done. And what I think, referring to what Nicolas has said, we should start somewhere. Bangui is a town of around about 1.2 million inhabitants. In this town, you have around 60% or 70% of the population with a phone, and you have something like 100,000 smartphones. We can start somewhere, and we know that if there is any technical possibility, the wallet to be submitted to them can integrate a USSD ability layer that can be used. Because they use mobile money, and mobile money is based on USSD. And if we can have this USSD code, if it is possible, then they will not even notice that they have gone from mobile money to Bitcoin. Yes, David. Yes. Yes, David, you raised your hand.
Sorry. Yeah, but finish if you finish your it's to speak after if you want. No problem. Huh? But
okay. So we will start from somewhere. We start from somewhere, and there is a huge challenge to manage between between 100,000 potential Bitcoiners to 700,000 potential Bitcoiners only in Bangui, the capital. And if there was a mining company that settled 100 kilometers away from Bangui, there will be another spot where people will use this Bitcoin. And there is a very interesting feature in the wallet that Nicolas can submit to them based on what has been done already in San Salvador. Is that in Salvador, not San Salvador, in Salvador, is that you can use, you can exchange, you can have transactions without internet connection using your QR code. And if it is possible in this way, then what we do is to use the features that we already know that are already in use, and everything will move on. The mobile money started with we started with the first customer, the first. So let's do, what I suggest is to do anything that can be possible to have the first Bitcoin wallet opened in Central African Republic. And we can do it in Bangui right now, where we have 1.2 million inhabitants. It's very, very, very important. And then it will be extended to the whole country progressively. So let's start there and let's offer something to them. Let's submit something to them so that we have what we can do. Infrastructures will come, and they have a presidential political program to build infrastructure. And this can be another motivation to really build this infrastructure quicker.
If I can say something about what Yamb just said, it's like he's totally agree that we need to understand the tools and the habit that the population use already and adapt the tools about it. We don't need to push a lot of new technology in short term, but in middle and long term maybe. But now we need to have adapted tools from what they already used. You spoke about the network USSD. I work in villages and everybody use USSD network to make mobile money transfer, to pay the solar station, and to pay everything. So we need to adapt our tools, and it's the key point to succeed, to have an efficient and inclusive implementation of this new monetary revolution that Bitcoin give to this country. So it's very important to have this in the head, to understand what happened and to put in place tools adapted from what they already use.
Absolutely. Yeah, many small steps. Starts with listening and learning and seeing and adapting. We're about 10 minutes here from our time. We've got a decent group. I'd love to give everybody the floor for a minute or two to kind of provide any last thoughts, things maybe that we didn't touch on, and or your big takeaway from the trip. Jean, do you want to start us off and provide a couple final thoughts?
Were you talking to me? I didn't get you because
I said Jean Christophe. Did you want to provide a couple?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
No risk.
Yeah.
I mean, as a conclusion, I'm very optimistic about the adoption. There is for sure some technical problem, internet and energy, most of them, but people need it. And it's not like for European or Americans that which is a plus. They really need it for every days. So I'm sure the rate of penetration of Bitcoin will be a success. I don't know how long it will take, if it will be fast or long, whatever. It would take the time it needs, but it will success, I'm sure.
Noor, final thoughts, takeaways, lessons?
I mean, I would agree with Jean-Christophe. We came out of there very optimistic about what Bitcoin could do for this country. And as the president of the Conseil économique et social kept saying, we learn to walk by walking. So let's just get something going. Let's start somewhere, and then eventually we'll learn what the people need, what needs to be built as we go. But we need to start somewhere. And even if it's just starting at Bangui in the capital, that's already a significant of the population that would benefit from it, and will expand from there.
Sebastien, and one other thing that to get final thoughts on as well is as we've seen the articles coming in, the FUD from every direction. If you have any response or to the way that the trip is perceived, I'd love to hear about that as well. Sebastien, final thoughts and response to some of the FUD and media articles. You're on mute.
You're muted, Sebastien.
Okay, so it was a very long question. Could you do it again, but shortly?
Sure. there's been in the media, many articles about Bitcoin's first African adopter faces backlash from central bank, or Luc Valier by helping finance, Putin's war crime. There's a lot of articles, and I just wanted to provide a chance to, respond to the articles in the media, and then any final thoughts you have.
No, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. It's not the important thing for me. So, the decision is taken by the president. So my only preoccupation now is the success of the operation for Bitcoin, for our ecosystem, and for the people of this country, and for the people of the other countries, because other countries will adopt Bitcoin. It's a hope incredible for Africa and for all poor people in the world. So it's the beginning of something very strong. I am so happy to live this revolution.
Nicolas, response to the FUD, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure, in some years from now, like GDP, like in El Salvador, right, GDP per capita will increase like it has never increased before, and you will still find the further that will find any excuse for or any reason for why GDP has increased so much. They will never want to say that there is some very strong correlation with adoption of Bitcoin, but I'm already expecting it. So.
Yamb, final thoughts and/or response to the FUD and what a lot of the media, articles may be portraying about this trip. And you're on mute.
What I think, the word that I can say is that I'm hopeful that Central African Republic will succeed, because their success is not only for them. It's for the community of Bitcoin, but it's also for the world. This is a financial revolution. We will have the first Bitcoin state. And I really call on everybody on earth who is expert in this economic ecosystem, and who knows something about Bitcoin, to come and put a hand so that we can support this country. I live in a neighboring country, and I really know what's happening there, because there's not quite different, really not different with what's happening here. And people are monitoring what's happening in Central African Republic from this country and from neighboring countries. And if President Touadéra succeeded with the help of everyone and everybody from anywhere, then we will have made something very strong, and we will have helped 6 million people come out of poverty, and that's very, very an historic testimony of what science and human solidarity can do.
Thank you for that, David.
Yep. Just to remember that a revolution comes from places where we really need it, and where it's going to have the most impact for population. It's the first time that there is a tool, because Bitcoin is a tool. It's not a solution, it's a tool. But it's the first time that there is a tool from people for the people, and to have for the first time a real fair monetary system. And it's just amazing to see what happened now, and I'm, like others, very positive. And yes, we have the time to do it, and what we say, it's like alone we go faster, but together we go further. So it's what happened now, and let's go.
Let's go. I think that's a good place to wrap. I love, I feel privileged to be here speaking with you about this trip, getting it from people who were there on the ground, speaking with people about Bitcoin adoption in Central African Republic. So I thank you all. For people listening, we'll be back next week with speaking with individuals in Panama about Bitcoin adoption in Panama. And so, as we do with this Adopting Bitcoin convo with Galoy Pod, we try and get perspectives from the ground in each country or community around the world. And so, I'm excited for that. We'll cut the live stream here in a second. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
And,
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I think Kamal is going to cut the stream, but if you want to